This is
Chat the Great.
I left MCA in 1990, end of 91. And by now, Blur were doing well. Their first album, you know, hadn't exploded, but it'd done well. But had probably been a bit overshadowed by Primal Scream. And Screamadelica was very much the record of sort of like 1991, as opposed to Leisure, the first Blur album. But, you know, Blur were doing well. They were on the charts in America. They were about to embark on a massive tour. They were recording demos in the new studio, in Matrix, demos for the new album. But it was a great opportunity. I got a job at EMI, and that job was going to be working with some of my favorite bands, like The House of Love, Ride, 530, Primal Scream, My Bloody Valentine. So for me, it was the roster from heaven. I was so excited. So there was no question about it. And the band were really good about it. And sort of like, in fact, Graham said to me, "Oh, that's fantastic. We can be mates now." And it's just, it changed the relationship, but I was spending exactly the same amount of time with them, you know, even though I wasn't working with them. Manchester in the city. And that was a conference a bit like the Great Escape, but in Manchester, which Tony Wilson had set up. So every venue in Manchester was having a gig on, and every pub in Manchester had a gig on. And I was in a bar called the Canal Cafe bar on Whitworth Street, the same street as the Hacienda, that backed onto the canal. And it was a Creation Records night in 1993. And I was there with a mate of mine from school. And he'd come along to hang out. And I said, "Oh, let's go and see this. I'm hearing good things about the first act that are on, Oasis." So we went in to see them. And it was a massive moment for me, because I see the band, and Liam was just undeniable. He was a fabulous looking guy, but at the same time quite hard. So you've got that kind of like Terence Stamp kind of like thing, where somebody is incredibly good looking, but also a real bloke. Sean Connery, that kind of thing. You know, any James Bond pretty much. Maybe not George Lazenby, but you know, that kind of thing. And Liam just had it in spades. He was totally cool, had this fantastic voice that sounded like John Lennon. And he was singing really good songs. And the guitarist was good, Noel. I remember thinking, he said, "Oh, look, you know, he had the hair that was a bit mop top, a bit like, and a jumper, a bit like Graham." And then there were these other three that I wasn't so sure about, but the songs were really good, and the singer was amazing, and the guitarist was good. So I went, that was good. And then 2 weeks later, I went up to see them, and they were supporting Liz Phair. Don't know if you know Liz Phair, but she was, you know, probably a big inspiration for, you know, a lot of female singer-songwriters and Riot Girls who came after that. She was a female singer-songwriter, but had a very strong, sassy, feminist agenda that was just fucking brilliant. And so she was headlining, and they were supporting. And I saw them again, and it was just like exactly the same as with Blur. It's just like, every song of these, every song that they are playing sounds like it should be on the radio. It's, you know, these sound like proper hit records. And I got a tape off the manager. In fact, have I still got it here? I should have rehearsed this earlier. You're gonna have to edit this in case.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
It must be. It's got to be in the top. It's got to be in the top.
Surely.
Oh God, yeah. All the demos of my old bands are in there, but yeah, there we go.
Brilliant.
That's the Oasis demo.
Wow.
Right there. So there you go.
Wow.
That's the one I got. It's not. That's actually. There were ones that went out that just had their logo on. But Ignition is Ignition's the name of the management company. And the first one I got had 4 tracks on it, and I think it certainly had Rock and Roll Star on it. I'm pretty sure it had Shaker Maker and and Columbia on it, and it had Live Forever,
Oh,
And I just
wow.
remember hearing Live Forever, and I loved all the rock and roll tracks, but when I heard Live Forever, it was just like, ooh,
It-
this is really, really gonna work.
yeah.
So the manager told him how much I loved the band, and he said, "Oh," I said, "Can I meet them?" He said, "Well, they're doing a gig in Amsterdam." So I thought, great, fantastic. So I was all set to go over to Amsterdam, and then they were sailing out to Amsterdam on the ferry, and they got a little tipsy on the ferry and ended up being thrown in the I don't know what they call them on boats, but basically the cellar of the boat, and sent straight back to England. So didn't play the gig in Amsterdam. I missed that.
Yep.
But I went up to Manchester and I met Noel, and we talked about doing a deal. And again, serious guy, very just like total vision, no encounter with self-doubt whatsoever. He believed in it 150%, and it was just like, okay. And so I remember going in, and it was the first time I'd like sat down with the A&R team, and deals in those days tended to be 5-figure deals, and I said, we've got to do a proper 6-figure deal for this band. And everybody it was like a massive, are you sure? And it was just like, yeah, believe me, this is the one. Are you sure? Yeah, I can't believe, going back, there was ever a question. So we got the offer out, and it ended up being between us and Sony Music. And unfortunately, with them being signed to Sony Records, it was an incentive for them to go to Sony Music. And I remember I'd bust my back, and I was lying on the floor of my flat on Old Compton Street in Soho. And I was on the floor and I was on the phone to Marcus, who managed the band. And he was like, "Yeah, sorry, mate, we got a bit of bad news." And it was just sort of like, fuck. So that's how I nearly signed Oasis story. And luckily, I did get to sign Liam Gallagher many, many, many years later.